Join us now in this hallowed space, as we seek the touch of the eternal. Chosen one, their life still hangs at fate's whim, yet it's they who'll be confined for failing to erase you. The cosmic decree has been delivered, their deadline expired. Now, steel bonds clasp the very wrists that once conspired to end your story. Their very voices that once screamed, "You will fall," now bend in supplication for mercy they never once extended. The forces they counted on to bury you are the same ones that will cast them into perpetual confinement. Unbeknownst to them, a celestial strategy of unprecedented intricacy was unfolding while they drank to what they assumed would be your everlasting erasure. Every blow they intended for you has been rerouted to serve as the very proof that incriminates them. They fancied themselves grandmasters on a board you never even occupied, convinced they held all the pieces. Meanwhile, you operated from an unseen dimension, protected by forces beyond their comprehension. The exquisite twist of fate couldn't be more delicious. Unaware that your life wasn't created by humans, they attempted to destroy a soul that was divinely imprinted with immortality. Being liked, accepted, or even tolerated was not your purpose in life. You were given a task. You were sent by God to be in their lives. It wasn't a coincidence. The test was you. They took the mirror without realizing it. The trigger that would reveal all they had fought so hard to conceal was unavoidable. Observe how flawlessly this plays out. In an attempt to keep their carnal control, they broke cosmic law. They attempted to manipulate heavenly order to suit their own ends, which was against universal principles. Every plan they came up with, every falsehood they disseminated, and every spiritual assault they carried out was an act of defiance against the rules that govern reality itself. Furthermore, the timing is always unknown when mortals start war on immortal ideals. The result is never in doubt. You never had to defend yourself, so you never did. You maintained your connection to the source of all power, while others wore themselves out with intricate schemes and rites held at midnight. Your quiet was confidence, not submission. It was supernatural insulation, not naivete, that kept you at peace in their tumult. In fact, they were demonstrating your magical protection more and more each time they increased their pressure and intensified their attacks. The first cracks have already shown. One has been selected. Observe how their most devoted supporters are abruptly experiencing selective amnesia over their affiliations, and how their erstwhile pals are establishing distance. This isn't a coincidence. When spiritual insight starts to pierce even the most resolute consciences, the preservation impulse is taking over. Before their brains can grasp it, they are already feeling what is about to happen. Those who once believed whatever they said are now doubting their veracity. Their claims are now being fact-checked by the same networks that spread their lies. They are currently being investigated by the same systems that shielded their corruption. This is heavenly order reclaiming itself through all accessible channels, not human justice catching up. Invisible hands are forcing open every door they attempt to close. Supernatural archaeology is unearthing every narrative they try to conceal. Friends, if the message of hope you've received today has stirred your heart, click the YouTube Super Thanks button and sow a seed of $20, $50, or more into this ministry to fuel the spread of God's love and encouragement. As the scriptures promise, give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your lap. Luke 6 verse 38. Your generous gift not only honors God's provision, but also activates His law of increase in your life and in every soul we reach together. Forces they cannot see, comprehend, and most definitely cannot control are dismantling every partnership they rely on. There is nothing at all that their worldly power can do to stop the relentless destruction of what they established through manipulation. Now, the horror is beginning to sink in. Not the type that arises from outside dangers, but the intense, bone-chilling fear that arises when one discovers they have been battling forces they cannot comprehend. They didn't realize they were up against the creator of reality itself. They believed they were just dealing with another individual they might ruin, using traditional methods. What's taking place right now is a cosmic correction, not just your vindication. By eliminating impediments to divine order and realigning spiritual infrastructure tainted by their meddling, the universe is rebalancing itself. They are returning all of the positions they stole to their proper owners. With compound interest, they are reopening every possibility they blocked. They are purifying or replacing every connection they ruined with one that is far superior. What they believe to be intelligence is being shown as complex self-deception. The networks of mutual destruction that they thought made them untouchable are now being revealed. Their own spiritual weapons are turning against them, and the rituals they used to keep their dominance are backfiring with terrible accuracy. The supernatural collection agencies are now foreclosing on their souls because they signed contracts they didn't comprehend and borrowed power they couldn't afford. They were advancing you, not destroying you with their blows. You have to grow in spiritual awareness with each trap they placed. Every falsehood they propagated about you gave the truth a chance to prove its superiority. Every door they attempted to shut led to areas they were unaware of. They believed they were ruining your future, but in reality, they were accelerating your rise. However, this transcends the selected one's earthly repercussions. The spiritual world is reacting with never-before-seen vigor. The ancient principalities that once provided protection for their operations are now removing that protection. Demon entities who once collaborated and provided intelligence are now betraying their old human counterparts. The entire supernatural apparatus that underpinned their plot is disintegrating from the inside out, exposing them to punishment from which they believed they had long since fled. Divine surveillance becomes public at this hour. They are unable to regulate or prevent the channels that broadcast every coded communication, every secret meeting, and every blood oath taken in secrecy. Evidence of their own misconduct is now being amplified by the same technologies they used to disseminate false information about you. Documentaries about their atrocities are now available on the same media outlets that earlier propagated their lies. Their handcuffs are spiritual representations of freedom rather than merely physical limitations. They are transferring each chain they put on your progress to their wrists. They are turning every cage they constructed for your influence into a prison cell. They are turning every grave they dug for your reputation into a public cemetery. It reads like divine literature because the poetic justice is so flawless. Yellowheart if you're moved by divine love. Now is the moment to share it. Click the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contribute $50 or more to help us broadcast God's blessings far and wide. Every act of generosity you make is being watched in heaven and will return to you 100-fold. The same people who disparage you are now too afraid to say anything. They are now signing their own guilty pleas with shaking hands. The same hands that signed your character assassination orders. The same brains that planned your methodical devastation are now preoccupied with damage control and legal tactics. They are too preoccupied with defending themselves to obstruct your rise. Not only did your innocence withstand their assaults, it turned them into testimonials. Their ability to be dishonest is now demonstrated by every lie they have ever uttered about you. Their criminal purpose is now demonstrated by every plan they devised to harm you. Their occult methods are now documented in every spiritual onslaught they conducted. Your survival is a cosmic affirmation of divine justice itself, not just a personal triumph. However, Chosen One, vindication is just the beginning. Now, something much more potent than just cleansed names or rebuilt reputations is coming to light. This is a rise to such heights that your past hardships appear to be preparatory classes. The mechanisms that used to exclude you are now vying for your involvement. Now, the same industries that put you on a blacklist are reorganizing to support your goals. Now, the same towns who turned you away are frantically trying to win your favor. The platforms they can no longer access are suddenly amplifying your voice, which they worked so hard to quiet. They have worked so hard to keep your influence in check, but now it is spreading into areas they will never be able to reach again. They tried to deplete all of your resources, but now they're increasing through ways they can't see or control. This is supernatural multiplication, not merely recuperation. Connections that are in line with your actual purpose are replacing every relationship they cut out of your life. Through surprising sources, all of the resources they blocked are being restored with interest. Stages with a worldwide reach are replacing every platform they denied you. Not only is there a redistribution of power taking place, but your name is also appearing on numerous beneficiary lists. Those who fought their malfeasance are systematically gaining their prior positions of authority. They are redirecting their financial resources to causes that they attempted to undermine. Organizations dedicated to truth rather than propaganda are acquiring their media channels. You are one of the main benefactors of the entire system they created for evil being repurposed for good. This is the moment when your chosen power emerges. Not a destructive or manipulative power, but a transformative and elevating force. Influence based on truth and service, rather than authority based on fear and control. No earthly force can take you off the throne that they attempted to keep you from reaching, since it is now yours by divine right. With compound interest, the same spiritual principles that they broke are now working in your favor. The same cosmic laws that they disregarded are now propelling you forward faster than they could have imagined. Your rule is now being established in ways that will be remembered for decades to come by the same divine justice that they derided. Unaware that they were actually helping to bring you to power, they spent years attempting to thwart your ascent. Not only are your adversaries vanquished, but they are also changed into uncontrollable manifestations of heavenly might. Every individual who sees their demise and your concurrent ascent becomes a living example of the existence of spiritual justice. Any system that shifts from their authority to your influence serves as an example of cosmic law. Every victory you attain serves as evidence that the person in control of all strength wins some wars, not human strength. The purpose of the entire story was to show the world that there are still forces at work that are not subject to human manipulation, that moral reality is still governed by laws, and that justice sees everything and remembers nothing. It wasn't simply about your vindication or their punishment. For everyone who has ever been deceived, slandered, or methodically destroyed by people who believed that power equated to immunity, your victory serves as a ray of hope. In chambers of eternal justice, not earthly courtrooms, the circle completes itself with terrible perfection as the final gavel rings. Their last sentences are now being archived by the same heavenly surveillance that started documenting their crimes from the very beginning. Although the individuals who attempted to dig your grave are in handcuffs, the spiritual ramifications go well beyond these limitations. Since it was never theirs to steal, they were unable to take your life. Nevertheless, the one who gave it to you has shown that he can quickly take it back, not by force or retaliation, but by the straightforward application of cosmic law. What goes around comes around, and when it does, friends with boundless power and impeccable timing, are brought along. This vindication marks the beginning of your tale, not its conclusion. You are currently positioned atop the mountain by the same God who kept you safe through the valley. The same heaven that documented all wrongdoing is now planning your ascent. The same justice that brought down your adversaries is now creating your legacy in ways that will change the way that future generations perceive the interplay between divine authority and worldly power. Physical courtrooms are simply the outward expression of verdicts that have already been rendered in dimensions that they never thought existed. See how, like trained attack dogs realizing their true master, the very legal systems they believed they owned start to work against them. Formerly unconcerned prosecutors are now suddenly finding the guts to take on cases they thought were too difficult or politically delicate. The evidence that is emerging is not only circumstantial, it is overwhelming, indisputable, and precisely timed to fall during their weakest moments. They are using almost miraculous means to restore bank records they believed had been lost forever. Technologies that seem to operate with heavenly inspiration are decoding digital communications that they thought were encrypted beyond detection. Voices they didn't realize they had are being discovered by witnesses they thought would never speak. What they cannot comprehend, they cannot fight. Their high-priced legal teams are running into problems that defy easy explanation. Evidence turns up where it shouldn't. Sources who should have kept quiet testify. And governments that ought to defend them are suddenly launching vigorous prosecution campaigns. It seems as though the entire legal system has been rewired with irresistible momentum and new priorities. Dove brothers and sisters, everything done in faith multiplies in God's abundance. Use the Super Thanks feature to donate $100 today and join this sacred mission. When your roots are grounded in Him, your fruit will flourish, and your offering becomes a seed that bears blessed harvests. Their own weapons are being used against them, demonstrating the exquisite accuracy of this heavenly operation. Their illegal actions are now being recorded by the same monitoring networks that they employed to keep an eye on your activities. Prosecutors are now receiving comprehensive conspiracy evidence from the same communication systems they used to plan attacks against you. Forensic accountants, who appear to have nearly magical skills to track money through complex offshore accounts, are currently tracking down the same financial methods they used to finance your devastation. In worlds they cannot see or control, something far more destructive is taking place, while terrestrial authorities construct physical limits. The spiritual principalities that previously provided protection for their operations have taken that protection away entirely. Not only are the ancient entities who provided coordination and intellect leaving them, but they are actively working against them. Their conspiracy's supernatural backbone is evolving into a network of cosmic prosecutors. They are now broadcasting in the light every ceremony they carried out in the dark. Every ritual they used to stay in power is being revealed as proof of their occult activities. Their admission of spiritual treason is being exposed in every sacrifice they made to maintain their status. They believed they were calling forth protection, but in reality, they were recording their disobedience to divine law. Higher authority is voiding the agreements they made with dark powers. The interest on the spiritual debts they accrued during decades of corruption is compounding, making them unaffordable. The demons they have allied with are requesting payment right away, and their preferred form of payment is souls rather than cash. They are learning that spiritual bankruptcy has repercussions that material affluence cannot lessen. It's a beautiful irony. They used planned psychological warfare for years in an attempt to push you to spiritual collapse. They are currently going through a genuine spiritual breakdown as forces outside of their control are methodically destroying their sanity. With exponential intensity, they are now using every weapon they used against your tranquility against their own minds. Another confession follows an arrest. Another probe follows a confession. Another indictment follows one inquiry. Because it is being planned by intellect that simultaneously sees all links, comprehends all linkages, and has all proof, the cascading effect cannot be stopped. In order to unearth concealed crimes, human detectives are directed by supernatural knowledge that gives them the appearance of being almost prophetic. They are unable to understand the extent of the compromise of their communication networks. Forces that don't need authorization or warrants are watching every phone call, encrypted message, and ostensibly private encounter. The power behind divine surveillance transcends all earthly jurisdictions and technological constraints. They are unable to conceal themselves from eyes that simultaneously see through all dimensions. Their cases are being handled by prosecutors who are exhibiting a remarkable level of clarity and resolve. Evidence is arranging itself into patterns that cannot be disputed. The willingness of witnesses to cooperate is remarkable. Judges are constantly choosing justice over influence when rendering decisions. It seems as though the entire legal system has been imbued with extraordinary bravery and knowledge, rendering corruption unsustainable. However, the physical confinement is only the first step in their punishment. The spiritual ramifications go well beyond physical imprisonment. Their names will become synonymous with corruption because of how completely their reputations are being ruined. They are rewriting their histories to serve as warnings about the perils of defying divine authority. They are having their riches reallocated to causes they didn't support. The people they tormented are receiving their authority. Their influence is being used for the things they aim to stop. Every job they obtained by deceit is now being filled by someone who merited it via honesty. They are rerouting all of the projects they funded through corruption to serve real humanitarian goals. Every organization that they used coercion to dominate is now freed to carry out its intended purpose. Not only are evil actors being removed, but divine representatives are being placed in positions of power as part of the systemic change that is taking place. They have created amplification systems they never thought were conceivable as a result of their attempts to stifle your voice. Global networks that spread your message to audiences they could never reach are taking the place of the platforms they refused you access to. Through avenues they are unable to watch over or intercept, the resources they denied you are being duplicated. Every blessing they attempted to obstruct is coming back with compound interest and unnatural speed. The efficacy of divine justice is its chosen one's beauty. In addition to punishing the guilty, it also benefits the innocent. It generates opportunities in addition to removing barriers. It establishes virtue in addition to exposing corruption. Any move you take against your adversaries also serves to further your own development. Your ascension is a cosmic manifestation rather than only a personal validation. Every individual who sees their demise and your ascent at the same time becomes a living example of the existence of divine justice. Any system that shifts from their authority to your influence is proof of paranormal involvement. Every triumph you attain serves as evidence that spiritual principles have a more comprehensive influence on earthly outcomes than most people are willing to acknowledge. The punishments being meted out are not limited to worldly courts or actual prisons. Their punishment extends beyond realms they were unaware of, worlds where pardons and appeals are not conceivable. They must contend with justice that functions with perfect knowledge, unrestricted power, and an eternal viewpoint. The full truth is being used to judge every crime they commit in the dark. Your legacy of restoration is replacing their legacy of devastation. Supernatural resources are being used to rebuild every life they attempted to destroy. With divine power, every dream they tried to destroy is being brought back to life. With divine support, they are achieving every goal they set out to avoid. The contrast between their demise and your ascent is a lasting reminder that cosmic justice exists. Your existence was sanctioned by the universe's highest court, sealed with divine consent, and protected by forces that never sleep, never tire, and never fail. So they couldn't take it because it was never theirs to take. Their helplessness in the face of heavens is demonstrated by each breath you take. In the meantime, the one who gave you life has shown that he can quickly take it back from you, not by force or retaliation, but by simply removing the supernatural protection that has kept you alive in spite of your disobedience. They have been living on borrowed time, breathing on grace they have deliberately resisted, and alive through mercy they have not earned. Now that the grace period is over, the inevitable results of their decisions are becoming frighteningly evident. Chosen One, welcome to your time of unquestionable dominance. Chambers of Eternal Justice have examined the surveillance footage. Judges who are not susceptible to intimidation or bribery have rendered the decision. Additionally, forces that are solely answerable to God have carried out the punishment. While you rise to heights they could never attain, shielded by authority they never understood, and empowered by justice they never escaped, they are going to jail in both visible and unseen dimensions. Glowing star yearning to witness God's miracles firsthand, plant your spiritual seed now by contributing $100 or more through the YouTube Super Thanks button. Your offering lights the path for others and echoes through His divine plan, bringing His light into every step you take. The same prison doors that are swinging shut behind them are also opening for your total freedom. The handcuffs holding their hands together represent the return of your freedom. The justification you've been waiting for is in the sentences they're serving. Not only does divine justice punish rebellion, but it also replaces it with righteous rule. The last word has been delivered by the courtroom of eternity, and its verdict echoes across the entire universe. Because heaven maintains flawless records, do not touch the anointed. Cosmic law always wins, and divine justice never rests. They couldn't kill you, but they were killed by life. This completes the big reversal. The eternal judgment is upheld, and your dominion starts right now. The facilities that await them are more than simply prisons. They are concrete reminders of what happens when limited beings oppose unbounded power and monuments to almighty justice. They'll have plenty of time to reflect on the scope of their error behind those concrete walls and steel bars. When conscience simultaneously takes on the roles of prosecutor, judge, and jury, no amount of commissary funds can buy peace. The speed at which their erstwhile allies are pulling away leaves each defendant feeling abandoned. No one answers the phone. Visitation lists are still blank. Bank accounts freeze due to asset forfeiture orders, and legal fees mount. Their attempt to isolate you has turned into their own reality, made worse by the realization that your abandonment was never justified, while theirs was. See how their chosen inmate's experience differs from that of other prisoners. They're setting an example, not merely passing the time. Even seasoned criminals are uneasy about them because other inmates perceive something strange in them. Sincere connections are unattainable because of the air of spiritual judgment that follows them through cafeterias and hallways. The guards who care for them are not merely correctional officers. They are unwitting representatives of divine justice who make sure that every element of their captivity contributes to the greater good of cosmic equilibrium. When dreams are interrupted by images of their victim's vindication, sleep does not provide rest. Meals don't make you feel better when your appetite is destroyed by guilt. When every free moment turns into a chance for sorrow to grow, recreation isn't a source of solace. Under heavenly inspection, their wealth, which they have amassed over decades of exploitation and manipulation, is dissipating more quickly than morning mist. Supernaturally intelligent forensic accountants are tracking down money in financial networks that would be perplexing to artificial intelligence. Authorities who appear to have heavenly passwords for every encrypted system are accessing offshore accounts they thought were unbreakable. Their stolen riches are being used to further the very causes they opposed, which heightens the wonderful irony. They are returning money they stole from nonprofits with interest that is impossible to calculate. They attempted to destroy humanitarian programs with the money they laundered through shell firms. Their financial empire, which they built on other people's pain, is now serving as the cornerstone for the healing they never meant to promote. They are receiving civil claims from victims they didn't know existed. Each court file signifies not only monetary obligation, but also an additional weight added to the justice scales that are swaying decisively against them. People whose lives they damaged so carelessly that the harm hardly registered in their consciousness. Class action lawyers are uncovering decades-long patterns of harm, resulting in legal liability that far outweighs their financial wealth. The financial effects of generational corruption are being felt by their families. To recompense victims, trust funds set up for their children are being taken. To pay judgment creditors, real estate bought with illicit revenues goes up for sale. Restitution payments, which will continue long after their deaths, are being financed through the sale of private aircraft, luxury cars, and art collections. Prison medical personnel is perplexed by the rate at which stress-related ailments are eating their bodies. When spiritual toxicity runs through their systems, conditions that ought to respond to treatment continue to be obstinately resistant, as though their bodily manifestations are refusing to heal. As physical evidence of the spiritual poison they have ingested through years of immorality, they develop anxiety attacks, stomach problems, high blood pressure, and insomnia. Under strain that medical science cannot adequately explain or treat, their minds are decaying. Psychiatrists give drugs that don't alleviate the suffering that comes from dimensions that are outside the scope of pharmaceuticals. As skilled professionals face psychological damage that necessitates spiritual assistance, they are ill-equipped to deliver. Therapy sessions turn into pointless exercises. When heavenly protection is removed, the aging process speeds up significantly. Overnight, hair turns gray. Lines appear on the skin that did not exist before to sentence. Like water through a damaged vessel, vitality evaporates. As though time itself is working to squeeze their remaining earthly existence into the smallest possible period. They are going through what should take years in a matter of months. Their kids and grandkids are learning that being associated with their history has repercussions that go beyond societal shame. Inexplicably, opportunities that ought to be accessible based solely on qualifications are taken away. Schools that used to accept their family name are now carrying out more thorough background checks that uncover unsettling relationships. People with such surnames are suddenly being excluded from professional networks that transcend generations. They produced a spiritual contagion that disregards formal distinctions and bloodlines. Relationship troubles, health concerns, and inexplicable setbacks are being experienced by family members who were not directly involved in their crimes. Everyone within their sphere of influence seems to be impacted by the curse they placed upon themselves. Their families can only hope to escape the generational repercussions by fully abandoning their practices and exhibiting sincere remorse. Beyond the prison walls, something even more horrifying awaits them while their earthly sentences are carried out. Punishments for their crimes against heaven include verdicts that physical death cannot avoid and consequences that earthly tribunals cannot inflict. Their current pain seems like a little inconvenience compared to the eternal penalties that the same supernatural authority that planned their earthly collapse has prepared. Their identities are appearing in registrations kept in places they never recognized, in books they never knew existed. All instances of cruelty, malicious intent, and decisions to injure innocent people are being prepared as evidence for trials that will take place in courtrooms, where there are no appeals and mercy must be gained via sincere change. However, heavenly grace provides one last chance for salvation even during their darkest moment. Their everlasting course could still be changed by sincere repentance, full confession, and transformation. However, such a change is becoming less and less feasible due to pride that has been hardened by years of defiance. They are learning that prison bars may be bent more easily than hearts that have been hardened by years of defiance of divine rule. The clock is running out on their final responsibility, selected one, while your promotion goes on unchecked. Their physical and spiritual incarceration serves as a lasting reminder of the truth you've always known. Even if divine justice may appear to be delayed, it never goes away. Since your life belongs to eternity, they couldn't take it, but theirs has undoubtedly been taken by eternity. Their story's last chapter is being written in orange jumpsuits and handcuffs, whereas yours is being written in golden ink on the triumph scrolls of paradise.